gentleman's place? There's a place there. Who lives there? Aquali? And so those are your two closest neighbors?
Yeah, and then the next one north, straight north of us would be Joel Purdy. And I haven't talked to
You have not talked to Joel?
For the audience, what you're talking about doing is, here's the barn, and you're talking about putting it in this general location here.
Right, yeah.
And then, do you reside here at this location?
Yeah.
Last call.
Is there any opponents who would like to testify? Please come up. Okay, board members, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I'm gonna go through these, I'm gonna make it.
Are you gonna build a new road? Are you gonna go around the barn, or what's?
We would come in that south
You can come up,
driveway.
you can come up
In
here.
that driveway.
Okay, all right.
We were planning on using this driveway right here. And then we would come right in here, and the new road for the campground would be right in the center. And then some would go off this way and some would go this way.
How wide of a road are you planning on constructing?
We were gonna make a 30-foot road here because, so they can back in.
How wide?
30.
30? 30.
Yep,
And then there's 6 on each side of the road?
correct, yep. And then the paths themselves would be 30 feet wide and 60 feet long.
30 by
60.
30 by 60?
Cement pad, right?
No, they wouldn't be cement. They
They'll
would
be just gravel,
Yeah,
packed
just
gravel.
And then each individual,
Yeah, concrete.
each individual,
Concrete will hold up there.
each individual camper, if it's a fifth wheel or whatever, they'll just have a water connection, an electrical connection, then a connection to a sanitary outflow.
Right, yep. And they'll all be right
Right there, right
in,
with it.
yep.
Yeah.
So those would be set up if they want to winter camp as well?
Yeah, the water will be
Okay.
winter proof.
Okay.
What's the
Sewer.
distance?
Sewer?
That's what's.
Sewers, yeah, well, I don't,
Right.
it just drains.
But you plan on having year-round basically?
Yeah, we're hoping for winter too.
What's the distance between the pads then?
Separation.
No separation, it is just side by side. 30.
Just like a sheet.
So, my question,
Right.
if I've got a camper here and it's sitting on the pad, well, how much distance between that and the next camper do you see?
Center.
I mean, I'm guessing you're talking, the campers are what, 12 wide?
Yeah.
You said basically in the middle of the,
12, you got the
About
slides
20,
out.
yeah.
So we should have about 25 feet minimum
20,
between,
I would say.
20 feet minimum between the campers.
Yeah.
yeah, more than water.
Lots of spots.
What about lighting?
We haven't, I forgot to call Cottage and Clark, but we were thinking 2 lights.
One when they enter and one towards the back, so adequate lighting.
Yeah.
Where are you planning on sticking you're gonna have like dumpster pickup, I'm guessing, or?
Yeah, we do have a little cement pad right off the front of the barn here. And we thought that would be a good place, and then the road will be right here, so it'll be handy for them as they leave in the morning or whatever.
What about, storm shelter or abilities, if, for inclement weather? I mean, what are you planning on doing for these people that are there in the summertime?
I'd probably
Do they have
call-
access to your home? Do they have access to a basement in one of the buildings there, or?
I guess what my intentions would be is say, come over to the house and we'll go down the basement.
Back to the question as far as what are you comfortable with for a maximum number of individuals per camper?
I hadn't really thought
Adults,
about
let's
that.
go with
but,
adults, let's go with
yeah.
adults. I mean, if it's a family down the road and you're, you
Yeah.
have 12 kids, that's your own fault. But like,
Like
number
if
of-
the workers, you mean?
Yeah.
I guess 3 would probably I hadn't really thought about it, but
I think is our definition of family of 3 unrelated. And maximum number 1 camper per pad, if you're
Right.
comfortable with that.
Is the Summit campground, is that full now?
Well, what you're seeing in Summit going on right now is they've adopted a zoning regulation which allows individuals living in Summit to put a camper
Okay,
in their side or rear yard for
okay.
people to stay in, but they've got to go out and connect to the city water and sewer, so it's going to cost about $3,000 to $5,000 just to get that one camper. So you got to hope that you got somebody locked in for 2 or 3 years to make a cash flow for you. And I know you got a pretty healthy investment here as well with what you're
Right,
looking at.
yeah. But there's a
There's a
campground.
campground in Summit.
But I think it is, I mean, from my understanding, it's for all practical purposes, any available campground spaces are full.
Okay.
It was reported at the commissioners meeting that they have 59 sites on there. There's 30 of them that are committed for the winter, and at the time of the meeting, 59 sites were full
All 59 were full.
in Summit.
I think the gentleman that runs that Summit site has said that come next year, it's going to be full.
Do they limit, so that'd be Roberts, do they limit the number of people? I was just wondering if,
Well,
That would give
it's
us-
a good question. I think we haven't had an application underneath the new rules that they've had there, but they would treat it very similar to what a family is, because for all practical purposes, this is more of an extended stay campground. What they're looking at, it's not somebody just coming in for the weekend. And,
Right.
you know, I'm planning this thing here. It's probably going to be there for 3 months, so you treat it much like a dwelling, which in your ordinance is no more than 3 unrelated individuals, adults living in.
And emergency calls would be handled from like fire and stuff from, what's the closest where we are?
Summit would be
Summit
the
would be-
fire, yeah. And I think Millbank would probably be good.
You're not planning on hiring people to work here, that you're gonna be maintaining it, mowing the grass, pushing the snow,
Yep,
all those types of things. You have no expectations of snow removal or road maintenance out on the gravel roads more than what's out there right now. You got people, you know, I'm guessing you're pushing snow if you need to push snow to get people out.
right, yeah.
You're willing to stay here all winter, huh?
Or at least 9 months out of the year. So, you were thinking initially that this would primarily be used for what I'm going to call workforce housing initially,
Yep,
and then transitioning to some more recreational aspect of it later down the road.
when the
So-
workers move out.
Would you be objectionable to the board giving you a 2-year permit, and then if there's no problems, no complaints, no issues, that it automatically renews without a hearing? Would you be objectionable to that?
Oh, no, that would be great.
Then would you keep that on a perpetual 2-year or leave it,
I think.
address it at that
Well,
time?
once it's permanently affixed, then you're still underneath the thing where that if they're not compliant with the letter of assurance, then they could still, right? But this what you're saying here is that we'll give you a couple years to make it work. I mean, it's a substantial investment. You don't want to pull it away after a year. But if it works for 2 years, but if we got 12 units, we got 36 guys out there, and we got a lot of DWIs coming in because they're making the trip to Twin Brooks or whatever. And
Martin?
Marvin. But my point being is that if we're seeing other impacts with it, that the board has the ability to come back. And I just think rather than saying it's a year, I'm recommending that you give a 2-year permit, renewable automatically, perpetual after that, and then everything else flies into it. So I just have some questions for you guys, then, if you want to go through this.
Good suggestion.
So,
How long do you expect those workers to be in this area?
To me, it's just a guess, of course,
It's a
but
guess.
I think it, could be 4 to 6 years, there's quite a bit of stuff going on.
there's also solar farms that are being proposed in the area, and I think there's probably a need for housing.
Right,
Yeah.
So, Madam Chair, if you want me, I will kind of go through these conditions that I stipulated.
Ask the questions that have not been addressed, that would be great.
Go through that. So I'll just double check this. We talked about the location of the camping pads and the sites. He's talked about the road being 30 feet wide. He's got a spot for his garbage and rubbish storage. He is looking at wanting to have utility, water, sewer, and electricity hookups stipulated. The question is, do you want to see those plans, or are you just saying that if they're signed off by the state?
So who would sign off on the septic system?
Well, generally, the septic system needs to be installed by a licensed septic installer, or has to be signed off that it was done in accordance with the administrative rules through DNR. I don't know how you handle that right now, Kristen, in the county, is that how you handle it?
Okay, so
So-
that's what new.
Pete Eccles is a licensed installer, and I'm guessing he's the person that would be doing it, so he would have to attest that it's being done in accordance with DNR standards. If there's any issues, Mr. Eccles is the one that becomes.
Do we have to determine pad size, just a standard or a
Well,
minimum?
he is saying a 30 by
Right.
60 pad size. That's where you have to determine if that's appropriate.
That sounds.
I think that should be written earlier.
Yeah, I've got it written down here right now, but 30 by 60, each lot area would have
More
1,800,
than big enough for.
would have 1,800 square feet. The standard, what we've been seeing is 2,000, but 1,800 I think is probably fine.
Okay.
He also stated that his road that he's going to be using to access it would be 30 feet wide, for enough room for campers to get in and out. He has stipulated that he is comfortable with 3 unrelated adults, and there would only be 1 camper per campsite. He has said that he is going to be responsible. He would put a dumpster where the recommended here, if he has 36 people, he would need 3 2-yard dumpsters or 1 6-yard dumpster. Is that okay? He also says that he will be the one maintaining the grounds, controlling any ragweed. They would be the person responsible. They would keep a register of who's staying there. They don't object to that. They don't object to the sheriff or the zoning department being able to access your property to make sure everything's kosher. They agree that if your permit's ever revoked, that you would restore the site back to its original condition. In this situation, that put the cows on the gravel, I mean, you'd be fine. That you can abide by any state Department of Health standards. They agree that they're not expecting anything more road maintenance or snow removal than what's currently there. They also agree that if documented that all these campers and traffic is deteriorating the road, that they understand that they may be responsible for any extra road maintenance costs that the county has to do on that property. They're not going to have any non-family employees, but they are allowed 3. The signage is South Dakota Department of Transportation signage approved. They're not instructing or building or anything causing glare, vibration, fumes, odors. They understand that the CUP is not transferable, so if you wanted to leave and sell it to me, I would have to come in and apply for a new CUP permit, because it's associated with you. The permit shall be issued, what I've heard, 2 years, automatically renewed perpetually if there are no issues. Those were the things that I had taken. Was there anything else?
We just have one with fire or heating. What do you use for heating? I mean, you're not gonna have a fuel oil barrel sitting there somewhere or it's all, or...
I'm not real familiar with campers, but I guess a lot of them use propane.
Propane, so will they have each individual tank or one huge one?
No,
on site, or-
they have them on their campers, yeah.
Yeah, they have their own. But them little ones and...
Well, I'm gonna guess if I'm wintering there, I'll probably come in and I will probably get several hundred gallons of
Right.
propane.
Yeah.
You're gonna need that, and so that would be considered an accessory use. So you'd have to make the determination of those, right now, we just said here, minimum separation distance of 20 feet between campers. That was something that was brought up. We want to put that in there as well. So that would also mean that you would need 20 feet from any accessory structure, i.e. a propane tank to a neighboring camper.
And, you know, there are them propane tanks out there that probably aren't the best shape. I would want one that's,
Certified.
yeah, is it certification? I don't know, I can't remember what they call it. I guess I wouldn't want one pulled out of the dumpster or out of the, and then sit there leaking all day, you know? Put in by a
I'm gonna
reputable
guess some of
building
these
or-
guys are got fifth wheels that cost over $100,000. They're not gonna go get a 5-gallon reused
Well,
one from Menards.
You hope not.
Well, I would hope not. I think if we're talking, we could turn around and, how do you enforce this? That's the question.
Yeah, exactly, that's what I'm bringing up.
I think if they're going to have an external propane tank outside of the camper, it needs to be, I don't know, we can find out what the wording is, but some sort of certified.
Okay.
And then if you're talking about a winter, and that has to be at least 20 feet from the closest camper that's not mine.
Okay.
It's a separation distance just like the other ones, so just in
Okay.
case there was an explosion, you're not knocking them all three down.
Right, so if it's set up,
So
if they're
it's next
six,
to
if they're
yours.
60 feet deep, there should be enough,
Yeah.
enough,
You should have plenty of
you
space.
should have
Right.
plenty of depth
And if
in
you're
the
going to
back.
be winterizing, I'm thinking, I'm bringing in one like mom and dad's got, I'm bringing in a big propane tank because
Right,
Yeah,
you're gonna burn a lot of propane in a
Yeah.
camper all
Yeah.
winter.
yeah.
So propane tanks would be an allowable accessory use subject to being certified, whatever that means. We have to look that up. And 20 feet from the closest camper. Okay. Anything else?
Yeah.
We'll go through the findings.
Any other questions from the board? Okay.
We'll go through the findings. Is the board satisfied that the standard findings of fact adopted in our bylaws were addressed by this application? Is the board satisfied that the application was submitted prior to our application deadline? Does the board agree that the application, written testimony submitted, staff report, or testimony provided at this meeting allow the board to adequately review how the applicant will satisfy all the requirements for the home extended business? In the board's review of written testimony submitted, the application, staff report, or testimony provided tonight, are there any other issues brought up which relate to the zoning ordinance or land use plan that the board needs to address? Does the board agree that the issuance of this CUP would not conflict with adjoining land uses? That's specific, that's a specific finding you're required. Nor will it adversely affect the public interest if operated according to our ordinance and the conditions prescribed. Does the board agree the conditions recommended by staff report should be incorporated into the conditional use permit? Does the board, the other conditions that we just stipulated to be rolled into the letter of assurance as well? Are there any other issues with the county's ordinance or proposed conditions that you feel should be addressed with this action? This would be an appropriate place for someone to say that we need to amend the zoning ordinance to memorialize this for future applications. Are we there?
Yeah,
Okay.
someone should,
Nancy, you can say that?
yes.
Okay. Does the board agree that it is empowered to issue the permit? Does the board request the zoning officer to prepare the findings of fact consistent with these questions to be approved by the chair and other items associated with this conditional use permit? Now, call
call the roll to vote.
I'll vote yes, but approve the conditional use permit. Adler, how do you vote?
Yes.
Pulaski,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Sparks, McCulloch,
Yes.
Jonathan, Mock,
Yep.
Letty,
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
All voting unanimous, yes. Approved.
Madam Chair, I would ask you to entertain a motion to have, to request the county commissioners instruct planning commission to begin.
Yes, I would ask for a motion to
So
prepare an ordinance to address a private campground in our ordinance book.
Second.
Motion to approve in a second. Any other discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? All right.
Do not have solar and private campgrounds.
Yeah, that'd be great. We could do them both. Mhm. All right. Anything else for the open? We are now to the public address. We have 4 people asked to speak. I need to read the public comment instructions. Those of you that signed up for public comment will be provided 5 minutes to address the board, provided the topic of discussion does not relate to a potential application which has not been properly brought before the Board of Adjustment. For example, an applicant or the public cannot come and comment on a pending application until a public hearing, or the topic of discussion does not relate to or request an appeal of a decision of the Board of Adjustment. What that means is if you disagree with one of our previous decisions, this is not the way to appeal those decisions. However, if you have an enforcement or potential violation complaint per ordinance, we will forward that to the zoning officer for investigation. Also, we are not obligated to engage in conversation regarding your public comments. The board may decide to place your comment on a future noticed meeting for discussion. Finally, under advice from legal counsel, due to current litigation regarding Crown Bridge and Crown Bridge 2 conditional use permits, the board is specifically instructed not to respond to any comments regarding those previously issued conditional use permits or alleged violations. As previously stated, your comments or alleged violations will be noted and forwarded to the zoning officer, state's attorney, and any other appropriate entity for investigation. Okay.
Who wants to go first?
Hi, Christy Milken, and yes, I'm pretty much here tonight to let you know some complaints that we filed with the county. This is not anybody on this board that's done anything wrong yet. Hopefully it'll work out and it'll be all good. Crown Ridge 1 and 2 applied for conditional use permit with Grant County. When they did that, they received conditions. The conditions clearly state, shall not become effective until all required permits granted by the county or granted by the state and federal government. Crown Ridge 2 does not have a permit. They were in one application, and Crown Ridge 2 doesn't have a permit. They applied, they could have, when they went to the PUC, they split the project. When they had it in Grant County, it was one project, one conditional use permit. They could have put 2 applications in at the PUC at the same time. They didn't do that. They did submit an application for Crown Ridge 2 in April. They pulled that in May. Then they resubmitted in July. So Crown Ridge 2 doesn't have a conditional use permit, and the conditions clearly state that all permits granted by the state and federal government are required. So we ask that a stop order be put on the project until they receive all state permits as a condition you guys put on it. The next one's really easy. There's a turbine out there, there's 2 turbines out there, but they only have 1 permit right now. And Crown Ridge 1 has in the application a 1.7 megawatt turbine, and in testimony Tyler had said that this was done because of noise and